All right, so let's have a look at OLWLG. Before going into the specific phases, I'd like to give you two general pointers about the monthly math trade, at least. One of it is general. So, first of all, before going in and doing anything, you would want to sync your collection. It's important to note that OLWLG and BGG, while they work together, they're two very, very different sites and two different tools that are not under the same umbrella. And so you will notice that if you do something on one side, it has to be synced into the other side. You'll start off the most prominent part of this is the fact that you have to sync your collection. So you do this by clicking this icon up here after you sign into OLWLG. You click that part and you do it now. Click that. It takes it up to a minute, I think, in my experience to finish doing that. And once this is done, this essentially pulls all the list information that you have on BGG for the games that you own, for the games that you're interested in, and every other part of lists that exist on BGG, and pulls it into the OLWLG tool. Now, the second part of this has to be synced is the fact that every math trade that happens through OLWLG is essentially manual. Every one of those math trades has an owner or an administrator. The monthly math trade one is William. Thank you, William. We really appreciate you. Who essentially syncs everything. Now, this happens usually once or twice a day. And this essentially means that once you add an item into one of those tools, either BGG or OLWLG, you won't be able to see it on the other tool until it is manually synced by the administrator. So don't freak out if you add a game and you don't see it on the list and you can't figure out why. In 99% of cases, that would be just because the owner and the administrator of the math trade has not synced it yet. Now, as you can see, finished successfully. We're done with that. Now, the second thing that I want to go over with you before we jump into the phases is the monthly math trades rules. As you can see, every math trade has, or at least the monthly math trade, has usually one discussion thread and another geek list, and also a link for the wish list. Now, the discussion thread, I think the others as well, have the rules of the math trade. I won't go over all of the rules. You can see there are specific dates for submitting offers, for submitting wants. This is what I described earlier about the time limits for the different phases. I'm just going to touch on certain things that people usually miss when doing this for the first time. The first one has to do with arbitrage. I know that this was very confusing to me the first one or two times that I did a math trade. This essentially means that you will not be able to trade money for money. You can find yourself trading, let's say, Everdell for Everdell with expansion. That's fine. That's not arbitrage. The only arbitrage that you would see is either trading money for money or geek gold for geek gold, where one person receives more money than the other. So, if, for example, one person would receive $10 and the other person would receive $15 for that exact same listing, that's arbitrage, and that is not allowed. So if you find yourself adding cash, it's really important to make sure that you don't select other cash, because this can result in the math trade running again and you getting removed from the math trade for that month. So try not to do that. The second thing is item description. A lot of people add items and just, don't give a very detailed description about what's going on there. It's extremely important for you to be able to receive something and get a trade. For a lot of people, you'd want to know exactly what you're getting. So please try to be as descriptive as possible. Of course, you don't have to go into writing a whole book about what's going on there. But if there is anything that you think people would want to know, it would be important for them to um, know that you might want to write that down. And of course, you can delete items, as I said before, um, before the next phase or phase two begins. Participant obligation, the major thing that I think some people miss here, not everyone, is that first of all, it's your responsibility to make sure that the person gets the item in the condition that you described. So if it gets damaged or something happens during shipping, it's on you. And so you might want to make sure that it is packed neatly and it has insurance and it has everything, because if something happens, it's your responsibility to make sure that the other person gets compensated for it in however way is possible. So that's one major responsibility that you have. The second major responsibility that I would mention is, of course, if you enter and you get a trade, it's you have to do that. It's you can't say, oh, you know what, I don't like that trade, I'm not going to do it. By joining, you decide by deciding to join, you essentially say, all right, I'm joining and I'm in. And the last thing is has to do with shipping. At least the monthly math trade has a rule that says that you are in charge of 100% of shipping into continental United States. Anything beyond that, you can say, all right, I'm covering $10, I'm covering $15, but shipping into the continental United States, you have to cover everything. All right, let's start with phase one, adding items into the math trade. There are two different ways to go about doing that. The first one is adding items through BGG. The other one is adding items through the OLWLG tool. It's a different process for each one, and we'll start with BGG because I guess that's the simplest one that people will be most familiar with. Now, remember, as I mentioned before, that these two tools are separate. And so when you add items to the math trade through one of them, you won't be able to see them on the other tool until the admin syncs the two lists. All right, so we're looking at the February 2023 US shipping math trade discussion thread that I've shown you before. And as I've shown, there are two different links that are shown here, one to the geek list and the other one is to the wish list. Now, if we want to add items, we head over to the geek list, which is this one, I think. Yeah. As you can see all the items that people have added and have been synced. Just like any other geek list on BGG, if you want to add items here, you simply click on the plus button here. You select board game or video game if you're offering a video game or an accessory or an RPG item. All those things are accepted here. And you essentially write down the name of the item that you are offering. So let's say in our case, we want to add Oceans. So we are adding the game Oceans. We will specify limited edition, excellent condition, all components bagged and sorted. Will cover $10 shipping outside con US, which is how I write things. Just do that. So we covered the addition, and we covered the condition of the item, and we covered our shipping limitations outside of continental United States. You always want to subscribe to items that you added because people might ask questions, and it's your obligation to have a look and answer those questions before the math trade concludes. And you mostly want to do that because people might not add items that, if they don't have enough information. So we're done with that. You save, and here we are. We have that item, Oceans, limited edition, all the information. This is now in the geek list. Now, if we head over to the math trade OLWLG, we can see that here, February 2023 US math trade. See, if I refresh this, I see that there are now 4,172 items from 270 267 users here. None of them are mine. If something is by you, you will have like a bracket here that says how many items are yours. As I mentioned, this is because the list is not being synced yet. Now let's look at the other way to add items into the math trade. If you want to add items to the OLWLG tool, first of all, you locate the math trade that you're interested in inside the tool. We're looking at this, of course. And you click this box icon that has a plus sign next to it. As you can see through here, we have 3.6 days left to add games, and we want to do that before that happens. So we click that icon. And now you have a few different ways to look at this. The default one is if you pull down this drop down menu, you're looking at your BGG collection data. So you remember I told you to sync your collection before with the icon that's no longer visible here. Then this essentially pulls the trade list that you have on BGG and puts it here so you can see all the different games that you have for trade on BGG on here, and you can add them through here. Now, I'll just give a quick word. The reason we don't have that sync icon again here is because you are limited. I think it's once per hour or once per every few hours that you can sync your collection. So if you don't see it again, that's why. You just have to wait and it will reappear. So let's say I now want to add, let's have a look, Boon Lake. All right, we want to add Boon Lake into the math trade. And so we look at this item. We can add information here or we can add it later. It doesn't really matter. Let's add it later. Add to geek list. You can see that it's now, you see that item on BGG. And you can add the information that you want. Excellent condition. Will cover. Of course, if I had more to say, I would say it here. And of course, again, um, while the window for adding items is open, you can also update, and people will receive a notification that an item on their list has been updated. Once it happens, this will be on the OLWLG tool. I don't think I'll be able to show it right now, but this is what it is. Again, we subscribe to this geek list item, we save, and boom, this item is added. Now, we saw how to add items from your list. However, what happens if this is your second or third math trade and you don't want to add everything all over again and insert all the information all over again? This is where this drop down comes in. You can see here all the different math trades that you have participated in throughout the years. And you can select that and click submit, and you will see all the items that you have added in previous math trades with all the information that you had for them. So let's say I now want to add quacks. You can see all the information is inserted here. Ignore that options. That's something new. I really have no idea what that means. Click add to geek list. You can see all the information is pre-inserted. Let's remove this. You make sure that you're subscribed. You save. And that's it. You added an item. And these are the two different ways of adding items into the geek list. Now, as I said, you can add a lot of different things into the geek list. Some of them can be money. A lot of people offer money through the geek list. It can be a thermometer. It can be whatever else people might want. Usually geeky stuff, tech stuff, stuff like that. And some of them don't exist as a category on BGG. So what do you do in that situation? And what I'm about to show you also is relevant for if you want to add multiple things into a single listing. The math rate is, of course, 1-for-1. You won't be able to select multiple games to trade for one game. And so if you want, for example, if you have a bunch of different really small games and you want to try and score a bigger and more expensive game, then you might want to utilize this option in order to do that. The way to do that is you click board game and you write outside and you select outside the scope of BGG. This is how you add items. Now, there are different options that you can employ here. The most important one is to have a name for that item, because that name will appear in large font on the OLWLG tool. It knows how to read those options. In order to do that, you write this plus alt name plus. You write the name of the item that you want to add. So let's say $30 in PayPal or gift card, and minus alt name minus. And then you go down and you write exactly the description that you want to give that item. So in this situation, let's call it you will receive $30 via PayPal or any gift card that has no fee. All right. Did that. Make sure you're subscribed to that. Save. Boom. Done. As you can see, the alt name appears like this on BGG, but once it gets synced into the OLWLG system, it will appear with that name, $30 in PayPal or gift card. The other thing that you can add, as I mentioned, is let's say you want to offer a bundle. So also either a bundle, it can also be a parts of a game or something like that. So let's go for parts of a game. So we do alt name cards from PAX Emancipation. Is that how you write it? Yeah. And minus alt name minus only the cards from the game PAX Emancipation. Cards are sleeved and in mint condition. All right. And of course, we'll cover $10 shipping outside Con US. All right, make sure we're subscribed, and that's it. Now, if you're doing a bundle, you can essentially write, let's say, Everdell collection in the alt name, and then through here, select board game and add Everdell Go, and I deleted that. And now Everdell Pearlbrook Go, and you add everything that exists in that bundle in, and this will be one listing that includes everything. The other way to do this is, of course, adding the game. So you can add just the game Everdell, and inside the listing of Everdell, as sweeteners or add-on items, add the rest of the things that you're offering, and this will be all in one listing that you're offering together for other things from the math trade. So we're saving this. Boom. You can see it here. And as we mentioned before, if we go here now and we take a look, we refresh this, still nothing appears here from what I've done because, as I mentioned, the owner and admin, William, has not synced the lists yet. And so it exists on BGG, but OLWLG has no idea that my items have been added. All right. A few tips and tricks when it comes to how you decide what to add. First of all, there are different rules, or let's say I wouldn't call them rules, but sort of like wisdom that has been said about math trades, at least the monthly ones, that you will always get the items that you want least for the items that you don't want to give. So always make sure that whatever you're deciding to give and what you're offering for it, you're happy with it, because you don't want to end up unhappy, and you're obligated to do it once the math rate is concluded, so you don't want to get bummed out by it. The second thing is everyone makes mistakes, right? Even me and others who've been doing this for a lot of years, we make mistakes every now and again. We select the wrong thing. We didn't notice that it was an expansion and not the base game. It happens, and you're obligated to go through with it, and you're bummed out that it happens. And it is what it is. Next month, you won't do that mistake. Some people, if it's a really huge mistake, people on the math trade will try to help you to cover for it, and make sure that you're not as sad about it. But just take it as it is. And the best advice that I can offer you, if you're new to this, start off by adding just one or two items, three items at most, that you won't mind making mistakes over, and just playing with it for the first few times, one math trade or two math trades, just with those items. See if they get traded. See that you understand how things are done before you move on and start doing all the bigger stuff and adding a lot of games and more expensive stuff. So try to keep that in mind. On to the next step, selecting things from your wants and choosing what you're willing to give for those games. As you can see, some time has passed since the last video, and all my items are now in the math trade. So I can go on and actually make the selections for what I want in return. Now, there are two different locations that you can look at to get a glimpse at that. The first one is the magnifying glass here, which essentially filters and only shows you items and games that are in your lists, wish list, want and trade, want to play, want to buy, etc., etc. And the second one is just take a look at the whole list and decide, I want to go over this, I want to see what's going on, and then you just click the name of the math grade, and that will take you to the full list. We'll start off by taking a look at the magnifying glass, because I think this is the easiest and simplest one to look at, and I think a lot of people just take a look at that. And as you can see, it just gives you a full list of everything that exists in the math grade from your list. Again, color coded, and you can take a look at the color coding here, exactly what each color means. Now, from here, there are two main ways that you can add things into your grid. The simplest one, or the one that is most fitting people with a very small amount or a small amount of items that they are offering, is you start off by clicking the add button here. And here you will see a full list of all the games that you have uh, on your list that you're offering, and you can just select for this game, the Hall of the Mountain King retail content. I am willing to give the Duke. I'm willing to give Terraforming Mars. That's it. Save. You're done. You can see that it's a bit slow here, so sorry about that. But you'll see that this game will now have a check mark next to it, indicating that it is in your grid. All right, you can see it here. The second way to do this is just click this. This is a one-click adding into your grid, which then lets you go into the grid and add things there. I'd say that if you have a lot of selections going on and you're offering a lot of stuff, the grid can be a bit overwhelming, so you might want to do things through here. Now, the different information that you have here, I'll just let you sift through it, and select and see what happens. So this is the first way to add things. The second way to add things into your grid is more fitting for people who have a lot of offerings, and that's essentially setting up an automatic check mark. Like I said, the grids can be a bit overwhelming, and it can be a bit of a hassle to go through everything and just make selections over and over again when you have many items. And so this is where the value system comes in. Now, if you see, when you click a game, the add button, again, everything is a bit slow right now. I'm not sure why. At the bottom there, below all the things that you are offering, you have here an option for optional value. Now, the optional value can have two different things that you can use it for. The first one, the simpler one, is just to sort items in the grid. So in your grid, things will appear according to the value that you gave them. So if you gave something a value of 2 and then you gave something else a value of 10, the value 10 will appear at the top of the list and the value 2 will appear at the bottom. However, you can also give things values depending on how much you value them and how much you value your own games, to then let the grid auto select for you the all the check marks. So in this case, let's say we think that Glory to Rome is worth $150. This is the black box edition, so it actually is worth more. So let's just give it, for the sake of the example, $150. We click that, and now at this point there are no check marks and no selections happening for that game. So if we go into the grid, which is step 4, you'll be able to see Glory to Rome appears with 150, but nothing is selected. And this is what the grid looks like. Now, if you want to do something different, then you would go into this icon here, the step 3 style view of your own items. This lets you see all the items that you are currently offering, and you can give all those items values as well. So let's say I'm saying that, what's the most expensive thing? Let's say that this Altiplano, I'm going to give it a $10 value, just as an example. After you add that, you have to click set my values here at the bottom. This gives that item a value. And when we go to step 4 here again, we can click, see this link here, how to assign values and auto check boxes. You click that, and then you click this here that will automatically check the boxes. Now you can see Altiplano appears here. It's worth $10, meaning I'm willing to give that for anything that is worth $10 or more in the values that I selected for everything else. So you can see items here in the Hall of the Mountain King. I didn't give it a value before, so it didn't get checked. Everything else I gave them values and they got automatically checked. So this is the second way of adding items and selecting their values. So I've added a few more items. I've given them values. This is what my grid now looks like. The top area is the items that I'm offering. You can see here, if you look at the bottom right of the screen while I'm hovering over an item, you can also see it on the bottom right with a red border. And here on the right and also on the left, because I have a lot of items, there are the different items that I've added and the values that I've given them. So you can see this is what the grid looks like. If you want to add check marks manually to a grid, you can just do that by adding those here. Like I said, it can be a bit of a hassle to do that through here. So if you don't have a lot of items, as I mentioned before, you might want to do that while you're adding items. But you can always go in here and make more selections, make tweaks. I know that even though I do the automatic checkmark thingy, I always go over the grid and look at case by case situations where I'm willing to give more than or less than what the automatic values I gave items actually checked. So just play around with that. There isn't much to say about the grid except for what I mentioned. The one thing that I want to show is, for example, if there is an item that I want to remove completely. Let's say there was a mind management, this promo card. Initially, I wanted it, and then I changed my mind. You don't actually have to remove anything. You could just make sure that nothing is checked here, and that item, you won't get it because you didn't offer anything for it. But if you want to keep it neat and tidy and make sure that everything, is just the items that you're interested in, the way to remove an item from here is just go into the values area for that item. And instead of the number here, write delete. As soon as you click confirm changes, that item will be removed. So this is gone. This item is no longer here. I'm definitely not getting it, and everything is neat and tidy and nice. Now, as you can see, some time has passed again. So you can see what it looks like when items that I've added in the past have been changed. So I can click that and see what has been updated on the items that I've added since I've added them. So this is before and this is now. So you can see and check again that you're happy with the changes or unhappy, and then you can remove an item or uncheck or whatever. And that's essentially it. Now, when you're ready to submit, all you have to do, you can see that this option has been added here and it didn't exist before. All you have to do is click here. This opens a list. Right now, I didn't actually make any selections for what I'm willing to give, except for the example from before with the alpaca rider roll tile for Altiplano. So once I'm ready, let's say I'm ready to submit, I click that, I see a list, I can review and make sure that everything I'm offering is right, and I'm willing to give things for what I'm supposed to be getting, and I didn't make any mistakes. And when you are ready, all you have to do is here click submit my wants, and that's it. You submitted. Now, a lot of people make the mistake of just clicking this and thinking, all right, I submitted. It's good. I'm done. But that's not actually the case. This is critical to click submit my wants to make sure that the items that you're actually interested in are submitted and you are in the math trade. Now, when that happens, you will actually receive a geek message right here confirming your submission. So you can see that, all right, this is what I'm offering. This is what I'm willing to give for those items. If you didn't receive that message, it means in all probability that your listing did not get submitted. And you can always go into the discussion thread for that math trade and talk to people, ask for advice, ask questions, etc., etc. So that's it, I think, when it comes to that. I'll let you guys play around. There are a lot of different links and options in a math trade that you can utilize to decide what you want to give and what you want to get. You can take a look at the statistics here that we looked at before, and you can look at the users who submitted, who didn't submit, etc., etc. So I'll let you take a look of all of that. There is also a duplicate protection option here in the grid area, step 4, that honestly is rather, well, it's not too complicated, but I think it would warrant a whole different video in its own. So I'm not going to touch on it right now. The only thing I would say is that if you did end up adding a duplicate protection container into your grid, the delete option that I showed you before, where you insert a delete message into the value, is not relevant. This will not work for a duplicate container. So, just keep that in mind. All right, so that is it. I will let you guys, as I said, play around with this. And, math grades are a lot of fun. Make sure that, if you're new, just don't offer a lot of stuff. Try to minimize the mistakes that you do in the beginning, because some people, when they make mistakes for the first time, it deters them from doing it again. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to contact people in the discussion thread, the community for math trading. I know specifically for the monthly math trade, but for the PAX Unplugged one as well has been extremely accommodating. It's a really, really great community of people who are always willing to help. And the discussion thread is always really funny as well. So, come on, join the fun and, have fun yourself. Cheers.